New York Times bestsellers. His latest book is the #1 hit on the New York Times, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon bestsellers list. And I know many of you are eager to talk about our spring concert, but I think it'd be pretty childish for me to announce that so soon. Especially that it's coming out so, like, it's ASAP, you know what I mean? I've been looking through my life, and I've been trying to find some clarity, but boy oh boy, I can't figure it out. It feels like I started from the bottom. Now, sometimes I even feel like I came in like a wrecking ball, you know what I mean? But before we go, I just gotta say, keep counting your stars. Enjoy!
Well, after such a great introduction, I can't wait to hear the speaker myself. Sometimes all these awards and accolades can backfire. Recently, New York Magazine voted me as one of the 100 smartest people in New York. So I thought, wow, what a great honor, right? But in all fairness, I have to admit that Madonna also made that same list. Next year, Lady Gaga is going to push me off the list entirely. Now today, I'm going to talk about the future. Of course, it's always dangerous to make predictions. Let me quote from that great philosopher of the Western world, Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra once said, quote, "Prediction is awfully hard to do, especially if it's about the future." Well, I'm a physicist. We can predict the evolution of the universe billions of years from now. So let me quote now from that other great philosopher, Woody Allen. Woody Allen once said, quote, "Eternity is an awful long time, especially toward the end." Well, you may ask yourself, well, what does a physicist do anyway? Well, we invented the transistor. We invented the laser. We helped to assemble the first computer and the internet. We wrote the World Wide Web. And along the way, we invented television, radio, radar, microwaves, X-ray machines, and don't forget, we created the space program and the GPS satellite. And we physicists love to make predictions. When we helped to assemble the internet, one physicist predicted that the internet would become a forum of high culture, high art, and high society. Well, today we know that 5% of the internet is pornography. But that's because teenage boys log on to the internet. Just wait until the grandmas and grandpas log on to the internet. Then 50% of the internet will be pornography. And let me tell you a cautionary story about a physicist. Over 200 years ago, we had the Great French Revolution. And one day, there were 3 gentlemen about to have their heads cut off at the guillotine. There was a priest, a lawyer, and a theoretical physicist, just like me, about to have our heads cut off. Well, they put the priest's head on the chopping block. And they asked him, "Do you have any last words before we chop your head off?" And he said, yes. He said, yes. He said, God from above shall set me free. Well, all eyes were on the blade. They raised the blade. The blade came down, swish, and stopped right before it hit the neck of the priest. The crowd gasped. They had never seen this before. And so they said, let the priest go. God has spoken today. And now let's see about the lawyer. Yes, the lawyer. They put the lawyer's head on the chopping block. And they asked him, do you have any last words? And he said, yes. Maybe the spirit of justice. Yes, justice shall set me free. Well, all eyes were on the blade. They raised the blade. Swish! And it went down and it stopped right before it hit the neck of the lawyer. This time there was dancing in the streets of Paris. People were saying, today God has spoken. Justice and mercy have spoken. And now let's see about that theoretical physicist. Well, they put the physicist's head on the chopping block. And they asked him, do you have any last words? And he said, yeah, I got some last words. And he said, you know, I don't know too much about God. And I know even less about the law. But I do know one thing. If you look up, you'll see that the rope is stuck on the pulley. And then he said, if you remove the rope, the blade should come down real good. Big mistake. Big mistake. Well, the rope came down, the blade came down, and the poor physicist's heads came down. And it just goes to show you that sometimes we physicists have to know when to keep our mouths shut. Nonetheless, let me open the mouths of over 300 of the world's top scientists that I interviewed for the future of the mind. A lot of people are curious about what lurks on their shoulder. That's what sent the book to #1 on the New York Times best-selling list. It is the #1 non-fiction book in the United States at the present time. And my other books, 2 of them went on the New York Times bestseller list, Physics of the Future. And they told me that this was the first time that the word physics ever entered the New York Times bestseller list. And I did it twice. And in this book, instead of going 50 to 100 years in the future, I go 500 years into the future. Well, we might have teleportation, we might have starships, and maybe even time travel. And I answer the question, what happens if you go backwards in time, in a time machine? And you meet your teenage mother before you're born, and she falls in love with you. Now, if your teenage mother falls in love with you before you're born, you're in deep doo-doo, that's what I say. But you know, I've been fascinated by the 2 greatest mysteries in all the universe. First is the creation of the universe. That's what I do for a living. That's my day job. Working on something called string theory, a theory of everything. But the other mystery is, what sits on your shoulders? That's the other great mystery. If we were to create a computer that can duplicate your brain, it would be 1 city block long. It would occupy a city block, consume the energy of a nuclear power plant, and require a river to cool it down. And yet your brain operates on 20 watts of power. So when someone calls you a dim bulb, that's a compliment. And what does it take to energize your brain? 1 hamburger. Amazing. So sitting on your shoulders is the most complex object we know of in the universe. There's nothing more complex than what sits on your shoulders. Hard to believe if you look to the right and to look to the left, right? But it's true. And the politicians have gotten wind of it. Because of physics, because we can now peer into the brain itself, see thoughts and blood flows ricocheting across the brain like a ping pong ball, now the politicians are getting involved. President Barack Obama, last year, made a stunning announcement. Along with the European Union, they're going to dump $1 billion to create a map, not just of the genes, but of the brain itself. It's called the Brain Project, to create 2 discs, One is your genome, and the second disc is your connectome, all the pathways of your mind. The short-term goal, to cure mental illness, one of the greatest afflictions of humanity mentioned in the Bible. But you see, if you have the genome, and if you have the connectome, you now have a blueprint to create your body and your mind. So in some sense, when you die, you live forever. Because your emotions, your memories all live forever. And again, of course, what does it mean to live forever? Who are you anyway? Well, to paraphrase Bill Clinton, it all depends on how you define you. So, when I was a child, I was fascinated by physics, but I was also fascinated by telepathy, reading minds, telekinesis, moving objects with the mind, recording memories. I dreamed that we could record memories and upload memories, maybe one day even photograph a dream. Well, I tried real hard to read minds. Eventually, I came to the conclusion that maybe true telepaths did walk the surface of the earth, but I wasn't one of them. Well, today, we can do it with physics. With physics, we can now read minds. We can now move objects with the mind. We can now record memories and upload memories. We can even photograph a dream. These have already been done in the laboratory. Now, Hollywood, of course, is already way ahead of us. They have all sorts of telepaths on television. However, there is the movie The Matrix, where you can upload an entire world into your mind. Maybe reality itself is nothing but a fiction uploaded into the brain in the movie The Matrix. And in fact, let me ask you a question. Late at night, just before you go to sleep, have you ever had that weird sensation that maybe reality is an illusion? Maybe it's nothing but a memory uploaded into your brain. Maybe you are the only one in the universe. Everything else is a fiction, and that someone wants to test you to see whether you're smart enough to figure out that you're the only one in the universe. Ever had that feeling? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've had that feeling. Well, you're crazy. You think you're the only one in the universe? Give me a break. You see, I'm the only one in the universe. You guys are just a memory uploaded into my mind. I'm in bed right now. I'm in bed just about to go to sleep, and somebody pushed the button and uploaded this memory of me being at Stony Brook here. But what happens? What happens if you can upload entire memories? Here is the former governor of California having the memory of being married to Sharon Stone uploaded into his mind. Okay? Now, we can't do that yet, but we can upload small memories. That's now been demonstrated in the laboratory, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And what happens if we can do what Hollywood does with the mind-controlling mechanical beings, exoskeletons? Believe it or not, we can do this now. We can connect the living brain to control mechanical arms, legs, like Iron Man. And what about the mind controlling an avatar, a surrogate, the mind controlling a robot that is perfect, that can explore outer space? This could be the future of the space program. Space is dangerous. Meteors, radiation. Why not send a perfect robot into outer space, guided by a human mentally who is sitting in his hot tub? You see, robots don't complain. They don't bellyache. And most important, they don't have to come back. So why not control them mentally? NASA's looking at this possibility. And then, when I was a kid, I thought about telekinesis, moving objects with the mind. We can now do this now. This is Carrie. She has her revenge on her high school prom by destroying everybody in her high school because she's telekinetic. What is the lesson here? The lesson here is never bring a telekinetic to the senior prom. And then, in the latest Superman movie, I was surprised. Every little kid knows that Superman's father died when Krypton blew up. Every kid knows that. But in this movie, they brought Superman's father back to life again as Russell Crowe. Now, how do they bring Russell Crowe back to life? He's a hologram. He's a hologram with all the memories, feelings, experiences of Superman's father on a disc. We will have that in the future. President Barack Obama has made it a national priority to create a disc with all the pathways of the human brain so that we can understand mental illness. But why stop there? Once you have the disc, in some sense you are immortal. The mind separated from the body. 300 years ago, Descartes and those people believed in dualism. The mind is separate from the body. The mind is the soul. The soul is up here, the body is down here. But now we have modern science, and now we say no. We say that the brain is wetware, just like a robot has hardware. The brain is wetware, and the mind is software. So the mind is software, and the brain is wetware. However, now, if President Obama has his way, and we have Brain 2.0, the connectome on a disc, in some sense, we're going all the way back 300 years ago, separating the mind from the body. Well, that's Hollywood. Now let's talk about fact. Let's talk about what we physicists can really do in the laboratory. With MRI machines, we can record blood flow. We can record blood flow in the brain and trace thoughts as they go ricocheting like a ping pong ball in the mind. On the left, you can see the blood flow when you tell the truth. When you tell the truth, nothing much happens. But on the right, when you tell a lie, when you tell a lie, first you have to know the truth. Then you have to create the lie. Then you have to calculate the consistency of the lie with all the lies you've been telling all these years. That's a lot of brain power. Your brain lights up like a Christmas tree on the right. So there's your brain on the right telling a lie. And the brain, believe it or not, obeys evolution. The back of your brain, shown on the right, the very back of the brain is the old brain. The brain of a reptile. The reptilian brain. If you have whiplash in a car accident, sometimes your balance is thrown off because that brain is very old. That's the brain of a baby. A baby grows the brain from the back to the front. That's how babies' brains grow, from the back to the front, just like evolution. The center of the brain is the monkey brain, the brain of emotions, the brain of feelings, the brain of social hierarchies, the brain of social skills. So when a baby is born, the back of the brain dominates. But when the baby becomes a child, an adolescent, and has to learn manners, then the center part of the brain develops. And the last part of the brain is the front, the prefrontal cortex. The thinking brain develops right here. Now we can test this against old wives' tales. We now have machines that can prove or disprove old wives' tales. For example, every parent believes that their teenagers suffer from brain damage. Yes, teenagers suffer from brain damage. It's the only explanation. Well, it's true. By looking at the brain scans of teenagers, you can see that the prefrontal cortex is not complete. It is not yet complete because the brain grows from the back to the front. So your parents were right. You do suffer from brain damage. And second, there's another old wives' tale. That when a man talks to a pretty girl, he starts to act stupid. It's true. You can actually show that when a man speaks to a pretty girl, blood drains from the prefrontal cortex. Blood drains and he becomes mentally retarded. Absolutely true. And then, if you were to slice the brain horizontally, and then touch parts of the brain, like on the right side, then the left hand starts to move. If you touch the brain on the right, then the left hand starts to move. And then you get a map. Now this doesn't hurt. The brain has no pain sensors. The brain feels nothing. But you can now get a map between different parts of the brain and different parts of the body. Now in epileptics, sometimes we have to cut the connection between the left and the right brain to save their life. And then something bizarre, something mysterious begins to happen. It turns out that two distinct personalities begin to develop in the same brain. This is amazing. This means that the left hand and the right hand don't communicate with each other. They actually fight. They actually fight for control. There was one man, for example, who greeted his wife by embracing her with one hand and the other hand socking her in the face. True, it's amazing. And there was one man whose left brain was atheist and his right brain was a believer, believe it or not. And in the future, I'm sure we'll find somebody whose left brain is Republican and right brain is Democrat. And can you imagine them going to the voting booth and there they are fighting over which hand is going to pull down the lever, whether it's the left or the right hand? It's amazing, but it's true. Two brains start to emerge once you cut the connection between the left and the right brain to save the life of an epileptic. Now, in the 50s, 1950s, we used to put these clumsy helmets on people in order to record radio and electromagnetic emissions of the brain. But we didn't have computers in those days, and you look like a refugee from Star Trek. Now, you can look sexy and do it. We now put this on a headband, on a narrow headband over your head, and on the left, you can play video games this way. You can move avatars. You can play rocket ships by mentally thinking and then moving the avatar in a video game. And on the right, in Japan, this is the rage of partygoers in Japan. You put a headband on you with two ears. If you talk to somebody at a party who's interesting, the two ears line up. But if you talk to someone who's a dud, real boring, a loser, your ears go, So at a party, you will always know if you're going to go home alone after the party. And I'm going to give these these headbands to my students. So how do I know who to give an A to? Who to get an F to? All I have to do is look at the class. Very simple. Your ears line up, A, oop, F. Very simple. And on the lower left, this has caught the attention of Apple computers and Silicon Valley. They're thinking about it. Maybe one day the mouse will become obsolete. Why do we have to touch the screen and get the screen all oily? Why not simply think, okay? In the future, you might simply walk into a room, mentally turn on the lights, mentally adjust the temperature, mentally call for your car, mentally have the car drive you anywhere you want to go, mentally operate computers without ever touching the screen. And Madison Avenue is interested in this. Why not make it sexy? Why not have models, fashion models, begin to put this on? So the possibilities are endless, including scientific possibilities. This is my colleague, Stephen Hawking. He's a famous cosmologist. However, he's now lost control of his fingers. He cannot communicate at all because he's paralyzed. So, we physicists decided to do something for Stephen. We put a chip in his right glass That chip is connected to a laptop. The next time you see Stephen on television, look at his right glass. His right frame has a chip in it. That chip picks up his radio from his brain, then converts it to signals that allows him to control a computer. So he can now communicate by telepathy. And at Brown University, they've taken people who are totally paralyzed and connected them to a laptop which is connected to a wheelchair and household appliances. This person here is a vegetable. He suffered a massive stroke several years ago. He cannot even scratch his nose, totally paralyzed. So they put a chip in his brain, totally painless. He doesn't feel a thing because the brain has no pain sensors. And that chip is connected to a laptop. He can now surf the web, read email, write email, do crossword puzzles, play video games. He can now control his wheelchair. He can operate household appliances, and he is totally paralyzed. And then, just last year, they hooked up a woman who's totally paralyzed to a mechanical arm. A mechanical arm, so she now has the gift of mobility. And at Johns Hopkins University, they're even building mechanical arms that are almost indistinguishable from the real arm. It's funded by the Army, because the Army has thousands of veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan with injured spinal cords, no arms, no legs. Why not give them the gift of life? These mechanical arms can pick up an eggshell. They can high-five you. They can fist bump you, and they're all governed by the mind. And complete exoskeletons are now being devised at Duke University. In fact, at Duke University, they're creating a complete exoskeleton for someone who's paralyzed to open the soccer games in Brazil. So if you watch the soccer cup, the World Soccer Cup in Brazil, the ceremonies will be started by someone who's totally paralyzed, but uses an exoskeleton to move. And then, why not use this to control surrogates or avatars? This is Japan, where mentally you can control Asimo the robot. Now, this robot by itself is a little bit of a disappointment. Without the human, it's not so intelligent. Now, Asimo here is the world's smartest robot. It can run, walk, climb up stairs. Asimo even dances. In fact, he dances much better than me. I've been on several specials with him, and he outdances me every time. Well, I interviewed the inventor of Asimo for BBC television, and I asked the inventor of the world's smartest robot, shown here, how smart is the world's smartest robot? And the inventor said, my creation, Asimo, the world's smartest robot, has the intelligence of a cockroach, a retarded cockroach, a lobotomized, stupid, retarded cockroach. We have a long ways to go before we have robots that can run around, talk to you, be a playmate, gossip with you. That's a long ways off. But surrogates are here today because they're guided by a human. A human drives the surrogates. And you may see them in the classroom. These surrogates are being devised for elementary school. Remember when we were kids, we used to play hooky? I mean, come on, fess up, right? You know, you say, Mom, can you write a letter? You know, little Junior is sick today. Can't go to school. Well, in the future, when you're sick in bed, you'll have a TV camera that connects you to a surrogate that sits in your chair at school. The teacher sees your face in your surrogate, and you see the teacher's face in your laptop. Isn't the future wonderful? You will never play hooky in the future again. You will have perfect attendance. And the eye is also an extension of the brain, so why not put the internet in your contact lens? That's what we physicists are doing. And you will blink, and you will be online. And who were the first people to buy internet contact lenses? College students taking final examinations. They will blink, and all the answers will be there, right there in their contact lens. And who's the next person to buy internet contact lenses? Well, politicians like Vice President Joe Biden, so he never says anything goofy again. He will always be on message, he'll always say the right thing. And these contact lenses, by the way, will also recognize people's faces. So when you meet somebody at Match.com, and the person says, well, yes, he's a millionaire, and he's divorced, and free, and so on and so forth. Well, your contact lens, you see that he's married, he's flat broke, and he's been arrested for fraud. You see a biography right next to people's images. And if they speak Chinese to you, Google Doc can now take Chinese and translate it to English as they speak to you. So in your contact lens, you'll be able to talk to people, know who they are, and understand what they're telling you. This is very handy. Let's say you're looking for a job. You're at a cocktail party, and there's some very important people at the cocktail party, but you don't know who they are. In the future, you will know exactly who to suck up to at any cocktail party. Very useful. And of course, husband and wives will want this. They'll want to connect their contact lenses together, because the husband or the wife always buys the wrong thing. They go shopping and always buy the rotten apples and the rotten bananas. Well, you can see what he's seeing, and you can say, no, 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 not that apple. No, 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 not that banana. Anyway, NASA is interested in this because one day our astronauts may sit in their hot tub and mentally guide robots in outer space, or dangerous work like firemen, dangerous work like police work. Maybe they'll be done by people sitting in their hot tub mentally controlling these things. So there's enormous interest in this because artificial intelligence, that is creating autonomous robots, has not been that good. Then the next question is, can you upload memories like in the Matrix? Last year, for the first time in history, a memory was recorded and then reinserted back into the brain, and the brain remembered. How do you do that? It was easier than we thought. On the left is the hippocampus. It's only about that big, but it's the memory gateway. All memories are first processed in the hippocampus. So for a mouse, this was done last year at Wake Forest University. For a mouse, they put 2 electrodes in the mouse's hippocampus and recorded a memory. It was drinking water. Then the mouse forgot it over time, but they had the tape recording. They then put the tape recording back into the hippocampus, and bingo, the mouse remembered it on the first try. Next will be primates. At Wake Forest University, they've already lined up primates. For example, a monkey eats a banana, and they're going to try to record these little snippets of memory. And the short-term goal is for Alzheimer's patients to create a brain pacemaker. On the upper right, you see what a brain pacemaker will look like. It's nothing but a tape recorder. It tape records the messages going across the hippocampus and then reinserts it back into an Alzheimer's patient. So it will simply record who you are, who your children are, where you live, and by pushing a button in the brain pacemaker, people with Alzheimer's will know who they are, where they live, and who their kids are. And beyond that, who knows? Maybe we'll upload the vacation that you could never afford. The dream vacation. Or even beyond that. How many courses have you flunked? I mean, you know, fess up, right? Well, wouldn't it be great to simply learn that material by pushing a button? Now, we're not there yet, but the possibilities are endless. And even beyond that, why not videotape a thought or videotape a dream? Well, not so far-fetched. At Berkeley, where I got my PhD, they can now videotape a thought. Here's how you do it. You take the brain, and you put it in an MRI machine, and you get 30,000 dots. That's not too many. A picture has maybe 1,000,000 dots, but 30,000 is pretty good. And you put them in an MRI machine. Now, MRI machines today are huge, gigantic. You can't put one in your living room. It'll break the floor. Weighs a ton. But on the right is the world's smallest MRI machine. It's the size of a briefcase. And according to the laws of physics, the smallest possible MRI machine is this big, the size of your cell phone. In your cell phone of the future, you will have the power to look inside your body like an MRI machine. That's coming. So what they do at Berkeley is, they take the brain, convert it to 30,000 dots, put these 30,000 dots into a computer, which analyzes it and creates a picture. A picture of what you are thinking about. On the upper left is Steve Martin. Next to it is the image of Steve Martin in 30,000 dots as seen through your brain, as processed by a computer. And on the upper left is an elephant, a human, and an airplane. They're crude, but hey, these are some of the first pictures taken of a thought. Only 30,000 pixels. And some of these individuals fall asleep. When you fall asleep in the MRI machine, it just keeps on going, it will actually print a picture of your dream. And in Germany, last year at the Max Planck Institute, they took someone who is a lucid dreamer. A lucid dreamer knows he is dreaming and he's awake. He is conscious and awake while dreaming. He can even control the direction of his dream. Now, how many of you here in the audience have ever had an episode where you knew you were dreaming while you were dreaming? Raise your hand. Oh, most of you. Well, that's lucid dreaming. In a brain scan in Germany, they proved it exists. It's not a scam. It actually is true. A man was put to sleep in an MRI machine, and he controlled the direction of the dream while he was dreaming. And so in the future, you may push a button and see the videotape of the dream that you had the previous night. Just don't mention all the names of your previous girlfriends. That could cause problems. And why is President Barack Obama putting millions of dollars into this technology? A politician? Because of mental illness. Mental illness is one of our greatest afflictions. It's mentioned in the Bible. It's ancient. Maybe 15% of the population at some point or another has an episode of mental illness. Well, we can now scan their brains. For example, schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is when you hear voices. If you want to see a schizophrenic, just go downtown. The homeless, people in the county jail, they talk to themselves, a lot of them. That's classic schizophrenia. So we now know how schizophrenia works. The left temporal lobe here generates voices. That's why you talk to yourself. You talk to yourself all the time. It's generated here. But the front part of your brain is the thinking brain. The front part of the brain knows that the side of the brain is generating a voice. In these people, when you scan the brain of a schizophrenic, the left brain lights up, but they are unaware of it. The front part of the brain is unaware that the left brain is creating a voice. So if you heard a voice without your permission in your mind, you'd say, "You're crazy, you're mad." Well, that's what madness is. We now believe that schizophrenia is a miswiring of the brain. The front part of the brain does not communicate properly with the left part of the brain. And if this is true, then we can analyze historical figures this way. As I mentioned, the Bible mentions mental illness, and this is Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc talked to God. And we have detailed recordings, transcripts of her trial. One theory is, it's just a theory, that if you go to a hospital and you meet epileptics with lesions, about 10-20% of them eventually develop hyper-religiosity. They see ghosts, demons, gods everywhere. If it rains, it was meant to be. A God is punishing you. We think that maybe the prophets, maybe Joan of Arc, suffer from hyper-religiosity, and we can actually induce it artificially. If you shoot radio at a certain point in the brain, you get the feeling of hyper-religiosity, the feeling that you're in the presence of God. So, scientists created a God helmet. Yes, it looks like a football helmet. You put it on, it shoots radio to that part of the brain, and you feel religious. You have rapture. You're communing with the universe with this. So what do? They took an atheist, and they took a nun, and they put both of them in the God helmet. For the atheist, they chose Richard Dawkins, the biologist. He put on the God helmet. Later they asked him, "Are you religious now?" And he said, no, he's still an atheist. Didn't change. But the nun, they put the nun in the God helmet, and they asked the nun, does that change your mind that we can, with a flick of the switch, induce rapture? And she said, no, because God created us with a telephone system so we can communicate with heaven. You know, you can't win. You can't change people's points of view. And then, what I found interesting, researching this book, is super genius. I've often been fascinated by people with photographic memories. You ask them, what were you doing 30 years ago on May 2nd, 4 o'clock in the afternoon? And they will tell you what they were doing 30 years ago at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This gentleman here can fly over Hong Kong, London, or New York in one pass on a helicopter and draw the entire skyline, building for building, window for window. And if you don't believe me, when you go to JFK Airport, Terminal 1, look up and you will see the mural. It's 100 feet long that he drew after one pass over Manhattan, the complete Manhattan skyline. And it turns out that a young boy had a bullet that went through his left temporal lobe. Another gentleman dove into a swimming pool too fast, and he bashed the left side of his head against the bottom of the swimming pool. Both of them later emerged with super mathematical genius powers. Amazing, well documented. So after today's lecture tonight, do not go home and pick up a hammer. Do not bang yourself on the head. Okay, I want to become a super genius. I got a math course I got to pass tomorrow. Don't work like that, okay? But we think we have a theory as to how these people have photographic memory like that. We used to think that the brain records, but forgetting is natural. We naturally forget, memories fade away, that's all. Some people don't believe that anymore. Some people now believe that forgetting is a very complicated biochemical process. You have to process the memory to forget it. Well, if that's true, in these people, their forgetting mechanism is broken. They have forgotten how to forget. So the new theory is, they don't have superhuman memory because they record everything. They record everything naturally. You do too. It's just that your forget mechanism works. Their forget mechanism doesn't work. They have forgotten how to forget. And then there is Asperger's syndrome. Asperger's syndrome, we think, afflicted the greatest scientist who ever lived. According to Einstein, the greatest scientist who ever lived was Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton was a very strange person. He couldn't carry on small talk. You would not want to invite him for dinner. He didn't have any close friends, no girlfriends, no men friends either. And yet he was this genius. He created calculus at the rate at which you learn it in calculus class. When he was 23, he created calculus, the theory of optics, the theory of gravitation, and the binomial theorem when he was 23. What are you going to be doing when you're 23? Slashing tires or something? And then there's Paul Dirac, the greatest quantum physicist. If you want to see someone with Asperger's syndrome, just watch The Big Bang Theory on CBS television. Clueless with women, yes. And then there's the greatest genius of modern times, Albert Einstein, and believe it or not, his brain is with us today. When he died in 1955, unknown to the family, the doctor who did the autopsy took Einstein's brain, held it in his hand, and he had this existential shock, realizing that in his hand he held the mind of the greatest genius of modern times. So what did he do? He took it home. He took it home, put it in a jar. For 30 years it was in his living room in a cooler. He even went to California, put Einstein's brain in a mayonnaise jar, and took it all the way to Berkeley. Amazing. The brain is now at Princeton Hospital, and the brain is a little different. In my book, I actually give the details of how Einstein's brain is a little different. And then, Freudian psychology. We can now reanalyze it. Freud wrote 100 years ago, and he speculated like crazy. And his theories eventually fell into, you can't measure these things, it's fantasy, science fiction. Now, with brain scans, we can. It turns out that the libido, the pleasure center, is at the center of the brain called the nucleus accumbens. We found it. And if you take a mouse and put electrodes in the mouse's pleasure center, connect it to a telegraph key that the mouse can stimulate, the mouse will stimulate its own pleasure center twice a second until it dies of starvation. Then they took a rabbit, a cat, a dog, and finally a porpoise. They took a porpoise and they connected its pleasure center to a plate. When it hit the plate like this, it swam forward, it would excite its pleasure center. Well, what happened? The porpoise would hit the electrode twice a second until the porpoise realized, I am dying. I will die of starvation. The porpoise then goes out, eats, and then comes back and hits him again. I mean, he's not stupid, right? And then consciousness. I don't have time to get into it, but in my book, I have a complete theory of consciousness. You know, there have been 20,000 papers published on consciousness by poets, by scientists, by psychiatrists, by everyone has written about consciousness, 20,000 papers. Never in the history of science have so many devoted so much to produce so little. Well, I have a theory of consciousness. What consciousness is constantly creating a model. A model of yourself, for example, in space, where you're located. Where am I in space? A model with regards to your relationship with others. And then a relationship with you in time. A theory of consciousness. Because I think that even animals are conscious, and I rank the consciousness of animals. Their consciousness is different from ours. Take a look at a cat's consciousness, for example. By the way, how many people here have a cat? Raise your hand. Whoa. Well, you know that when you come home, the cat comes up to you, purrs, and is so affectionate, rubbing yourself, and then it simply goes, huh, and then disappears all by itself. Well, if you could scan the brain of a cat, what is a cat thinking? The cat, first of all, comes up to you and put its hormone on your leg, because the cat is saying, this human is mine. I own this human. Other cats, stay away. And I trained this human. He feeds me twice a day. Good human. Good human. And then the cat is descended from the wild cat. The wild cat is a solitary hunter. And that's why the cat will go, huh, and go off by itself, because that's what it always does. It's a solitary hunter. Now, dogs are different. How many people here in this room have a dog? Whoa, even more. Well, have you noticed that when you come home, the dog jumps on you, slobbers all over you, right? Dogs, man's best friend, right? Well, if you could read the mind of a dog, first of all, the mind of a dog has smells. not sight. Smells is what dominates the consciousness of a dog. And the dog thinks that you are a dog. You are the alpha dog. You are the top dog. That's why he slobbers all over you, okay? Because the dog is a pack animal. The alpha male holds the pack together. And that's why the dog slobbers all over you. Now, if my theory is correct, then even a thermostat has consciousness. 1 unit, the smallest unit of consciousness. I'm a physicist. We like to rank everything, and we like to give numbers to the ranking. 1 unit of consciousness is a thermostat. A flower may have 10 units of consciousness, because a flower has many feedback loops. It measures sunlight, measures water, it measures the direction of gravity, temperature, carbon dioxide. So even a flower has consciousness. And then, as we said, the back of your brain. The back of your brain is the reptilian brain, the old brain, the brain of a reptile. The brain of a reptile locates its position in space. So that's level 1 consciousness, locating your position in space. And then the center of your brain is the monkey brain, because evolution goes forward. The monkey brain is the brain of emotions, brain of social hierarchy. And then the last is the highest, which animals do not have. We are different from the animals because we see the future. Time is what we do. We see tomorrow. To the best of our knowledge, animals do not understand tomorrow. You can teach a dog many tricks, but you cannot teach the concept of tomorrow to a dog. We, on the other hand, scheme, we plan, we always are compelled to think about the future. Now, if my theory is correct, then it means that everything should be summarized in 3 levels of consciousness. Understanding our position in space, with respect to others, and then fast-forwarding it into the future. Now, you may say to yourself, I don't believe that. There must be things beyond your theory, like humor. Humor is so ephemeral. How can you possibly have a theory of consciousness of a joke? Well, think about it. When you hear a joke, what do? You complete the ending all by yourself, without anyone asking. Your brain is compelled to complete the ending. But when the ending is different and there's a twist, you laugh, and that's a joke. For example, let me tell you some things that some of you may find funny. Teddy Roosevelt had a daughter in the White House, and she was a real gossip. One day she said, "If you have nothing good to say about other people, then please sit next to me." And then W.C. Fields was once asked about education for young children. And he says, "Yes, am I in favor of clubs for youth? Yes, but only if kindness fails." And then in the Bible it says, "Do unto others as you would have them do, except do it first." Now, why are these, quote, funny? Because if someone says to you, if you have nothing good to say about somebody, you complete the line. Your mother told you, then don't say anything at all. But the punchline is, please come sit next to me. So it's, quote, funny. But when someone explains a joke to you, you know the ending. It's not funny anymore. And so what is humor? The humor is the disruption of predicting the future. Because that's what the human brain does best. It predicts the future. Now you may say to yourself, well, what about intelligence? Doesn't that count? Well, IQ exams have been given to children, and they followed them for 20, 30 years. And yes, some people with high IQ as children turned out to be scientists and industrialists, but many of them turned out to be petty criminals. Many turned out to be losers, marginal people on the edges of society. So IQ is not the best indicator of success. Then the question is, what is the best indicator of success? Scientists have looked at the question. Is it father's income? Is it race? Is it social economic background? what is the one thing that children have that 20, 30 years later determines success? These people who are successful have lower divorce rates, higher incomes, higher educational level, and generally higher status in society. Well, you've taken psych courses. You tell me, what is the one characteristic that seems to correlate with success 20, 30 years after the test is given? What is that one quality associated with success? It is not IQ. It is not father's income. What is it?
Being attractive.
Delayed gratification. Not taking the shortcut. Holding out for the bigger reward. Going to college. Slugging it out because you know there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Delayed gratification. Never opt out for the shortcut. And what is delayed gratification? Seeing the future. People who understand delayed gratification know that in the long term, going to college, learning a material, gaining a license, getting a degree, that correlates with success. And now, let me try to wind up now. Then what are robots? Well, robots are at level 1. They have the intelligence of a crocodile. However, at MIT, they're desperately trying to get robots up to level 2. That is, emotional robots. Robots that you can bond with. But like I said, it's like trying to bond with a cockroach. I mean, not very successful. And then, the brain project of Obama. To map the brain. It's not such a far-fetched idea because of Moore's Law. Moore's Law says the computer power doubles every 18 months. For example, on the left, you see that computers used to be very primitive in the past. For example, today, if you get a birthday card, you open it up, and it sings, "Happy birthday to you." There's a chip in that birthday card. That chip, according to this chart, has more computer power than all the Allied forces of 1945. Hitler, Stalin, Roosevelt would have killed to get that chip. And what do you do with it? You throw it right in the garbage. And if Hitler had that chip that sings happy birthday in 1940, if Hitler had that chip in 1940, we might all be speaking German here today rather than English. And then look at 1969. 1969, we put 2 men on the moon. But ever see these old NASA videotapes? Mission Control had 64K processors. My God, you realize that your cell phone has more computer power than all of NASA in 1969? You're not going to put me in one of those rockets. I'm not going to be shot into outer space in a tin can with the power of one cell phone. It's criminal. It's criminal what NASA was doing in 1969, shooting humans up guided by one cell phone. But that's what we did. And then the future of the internet may eventually be a brain net. A net of emotions, feelings that are sent across the internet. You know, teenagers today, when they send emotional emails, they have to put little happy faces and little stupid little things, you know. In the future, the Facebook could go crazy. Teenagers are going to put their first kiss, their first date, the senior prom, all the emotions right on the internet. And then I'm running out of time, so let me try to wrap up. Eventually, we may explore the universe this way. Why not put the connectome on a laser beam and send the laser at the speed of light? No booster rocket, no accidents, no meteorites to worry about, no weightlessness, pure consciousness. Our connectome shot into outer space at the speed of light. Science fiction writers have dreamed about it, and hey, maybe we'll do it. So let me wind up now, and afterwards I'll take a few questions, and after that we'll sign your book, okay? And remember, after I sign your book, you can go to eBay and make money. You can make money today by taking my signed book and putting it on eBay. Well, let me summarize by saying that when I was a child, my role model was Albert Einstein. And let me tell you my favorite Einstein story. When Einstein was an old man, he was tired of giving the same talk over and over again. So one day, Einstein's chauffeur came up to him, and the chauffeur said, "Professor, I'm really a part-time actor. I've heard your speech so many times I've memorized it. So why don't we switch places? I will put on a mustache. I will put on a wig. You can put on my hat and my jacket. And I will be the great Einstein, and you can be my chauffeur." Well, Einstein loved the joke, so they switched places. This went along famously until one day, a mathematician in the back asked a very difficult question. And Einstein thought, oh, the game is up. But then the chauffeur said, "That question is so elementary that even my chauffeur here can answer it for you." Thank you very much.